Welcome to Old Guy Talks to Me, a podcast dedicated to helping guys create kick-ass lives for themselves and those that they love. Ladies, if you want to know what your guy is thinking, this podcast is for women too. Each week, a special guest helps you create that life you've imagined. We talk anti-aging medicine, personal growth, relationships and hot sex. Yeah, you hear me, getting laid more frequently, other guy vices, and topics that many don't want to talk about but need to. Just because you're getting older doesn't mean you have to be old. Don't want to miss anything? Be sure to subscribe, share, rate, and review this podcast. And be sure to go to www.thestandard.academy/magazine and grab a free copy of our new digital magazine, The Standard Academy, where we talk about erogenous zones, growing hair back, and other things that will help you create that kick-ass life. Now get ready to listen up and share with friends.
This is Orest, the official old guy at oldguytalkstome.com, a podcast dedicated to helping guys create kick-ass lives for themselves and those they love. And sometimes those that they love end up in really, really horrible situations. And I can't think of a more despicable crime or a worse situation to be stuck in than to be a victim of human sex trafficking. And it boggles me. I know I saw a movie a while back about sex trafficking during the Bosnian War by UN peacekeepers of all people. It was a horrible story, and it's just chilling. It's one of those things that you have to watch it, even though you are uncomfortable watching it. It was actually a true story about a woman police detective. I think she was from South Dakota or something like that ended up working as a policewoman in Bosnia with UN peacekeepers who were, well, doing anything but keeping the peace. But today my guest is Deanna Radulescu. She's a podcast host of Label Free Podcast. She's a survivor of human trafficking. She's a widow, former C-level executive, fashion designer, bodybuilder, and skincare expert. And so welcome, Deanna. How are you doing today?
Good, Dr. Orest. Thank you for having me. That's I when I hear it, I'm like, am I really all those things? And then some, let's just keep adding on to that list.
Yeah, let's do that. So I just a little side note before we get into your story. I just interviewed a orthopedic surgeon named Betsy Earth, and I counted after her MD. I counted them. And I told her, I said, "You realize you have 22 initials after your MD in your name?" Yeah.
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 High achiever.
Yeah, absolutely. So Deanna, it before we get started in a chronology,
Sure.
Is it painful for you to recount?
No, not anymore.
Not anymore. So you put that kind of, not necessarily forgotten about it, but it's not, you don't have a visceral reaction to telling your story now.
No, not at all. If anything, it was very liberating and therapeutic when I started talking about it instead of keeping it hidden and, being ashamed.
Okay. Oh. So tell us a little about what was your life like before you got ensnared?
So, I'm the oldest of five. My father, he is a deadbeat dad. He ended up leaving when I was 15 years old. My mom and I became like, co-parents, so to speak, because I was the oldest. Unfortunately, being around my father and how he treated my mother, I ended up repeating those patterns for quite a while. Finding men like that. But when I was still in high school and going to school, I was working a couple jobs, the story of someone walking through snow to get to their next job. That was me. And I did that. I gave my mom half my paychecks and I was always there. I was always working. I was ultra responsible. Unfortunately, when I graduated high school, I ended up, sorry. Sorry about that. Okay, enough. Sorry.
I think we have an animal on the set here.
Yeah.
She's talking. I believe it's your dog, right?
Yeah, yeah. Okay, stop. Enough. Sorry about that. You edit this, right?
No, I just whatever,
Oh, oh,
whatever goes.
yeah.
Believe me, I have had some stuff happen. So no, it's just
Okay.
part of the charm.
Oh, well, that's Teddy Bear. So you guys, that's Teddy. So who you're hearing right now, he heard a noise, so no, he's barking. But okay. So, anyways, after I graduated high school, I ended up getting involved with a older man. Um, he was very abusive. He ended up getting me like kind of started passing me around to his friends, and then got me into doing sex work. And he at one point he had broken into my house twice. He had abducted me, stabbed me in the arm. That time I thought I was going to die, but luckily I fought back, and that was kind of like the turning point for me. And I had slowly gotten myself out of it. Luckily I was able to free myself from him. And did a lot of drugs during that time, so a lot of it's just a blur, kind of a coping mechanism. But luckily nothing ever took. Like I was never like, oh, I gotta keep, like I was an addict, so I'm blessed in that regard. So after him, I ended up getting real heavy into working out, bodybuilding, wanting to compete as a figure competitor. And then at that point, I had been away from him for about a month or two, and I was introduced to my late husband. He was kind of like the knight in shining armor, kind of wanted to come and save me. He was also older, businessman, very well established. We dated on and off for quite a few years. And then I was with him for almost half my life because I met him very young, and when he passed, it was almost half of my life that I had been with him
Yeah.
at that point.
So let's go back to when you okay. So you're in this abusive relationship with an older man, and so it seems like you mentioned you're repeating uh, the the mistakes that your mom did in terms of staying in a marriage with an abusive man.
Mhm.
Um, what what was the lure of that at the very beginning? Because there must have been a time that he was kind of at least trying to was there a time that he was trying to be nice to you to lure you, or
Well,
was he
yeah,
always like that?
it's pretty typical with these type of things. And what I've learned, is that it's more of a he's more these kind of men are more narcissists. So they treat you really good in the beginning, and then as you get more involved, you're kind of stuck in a way because emotionally you be like, oh, he made me feel so good, made me feel like I'm so valuable, but then he's treating you like very badly. Starts calling you names and getting you to do things, and just kind of manipulating you. I mean, I was 17, so I was very
Hmm.
young, and he was almost 30. So, like at the time, I didn't know any better, and I only knew what I saw growing up. And, I wanted to just leave the house. I wanted to get independent. And here I meet this guy, and it just was not, a big, huge learning lesson in life.
Sure.
And I survived. I didn't get hooked on drugs. Like, he didn't kill me. I didn't get beat up really badly where I was injured forever. So, I mean, that those are all blessings.
Yeah. So how when it must have been awkward when he started trying to pass you around to his friends.
When you're in that kind of relationship, all you want to do is please that person. So
Mm-hmm.
you think like, oh, if I do this, it's going to make him happy. He'll treat me good. I'm going to be super special. That's the thought process that goes on in your head.
Mm-hmm. Okay, because that's certainly is. I mean, it's an odd thing for someone to do, or it seems to me odd. It's
It's
so
more common
remote.
than you think.
Yeah, yeah. Well, one of the things is I live in Las Vegas. It's actually one of the largest places in the United States, if not the most prominent place for human sex trafficking.
Hmm.
And so you were able to get out when you said you were gotten away. When did you make the decision that you were going to break off this relationship, and how hard was that to do?
Funny enough, I remember like after he had abducted me and beat me up really bad, my mom forced me to call the police, and I didn't want to. And I remember being in the courthouse crying. And like hindsight, it's like, why was I crying after he did such a terrible thing to me?
Hmm.
And it's just I can't really explain like the emotional torment, and like deep down like it's not good for you, that it's wrong, that you shouldn't be with this person, but yet you have been kind of programmed, so to speak, to be super loyal because of the manipulation, the way that they've almost trained you. Because I'm so young and impressionable and I mean, it's just my mind now is completely different than then. There's no way anybody could talk me into do anything I don't want to do. A red flag,
Mm-hmm.
you better watch out. I'm going to kick your ass. Like completely
Sure.
different night and day. So, I mean, I just remember that was probably the beginning of like, when I started waking up. Unfortunately, when women are in these situations, unless they really decide to leave and know that there's something better for them, it's very hard for them to get out. Very hard.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah. So abusive. Yeah, I mean, the statistic that I was told was that if you get stuck in a sex trafficking situation, the it's less than 5% people get out,
Yeah.
and many of them actually die
Yeah.
in that situation.
If you missed that URL, it's in the show notes. Don't worry, it's right there for you to use. This is Orest from the Standard.Academy, a men's lifestyle coaching program. Let me ask you, have you paid a price? Have you paid a price in other areas of your life for your professional success? Yeah, you know what I mean. Are you just in a roommate situation with your wife, or are you arguing all the time? Certainly there's no sex. And your kids, do they ignore you? Or worse yet, do they disrespect you? Is that your case? Is your life not working out the way you had planned? If so, I'm going to encourage you to revitalize yourself and get on a short activation call with me. That's right. Get on a short call with me. And I will, share with you some things that you can do to bring back that energy into your life. Go to the Standard.Academy /15-minute activation call and schedule now. That's /15 activation call and schedule that right now. Don't wait. Don't hesitate to procrastinate. This is your opportunity to start the turnaround in your life.
So you decide to, even though he was doing all these things, you were kind of torn between trying to please him and getting out. And then was there one particular thing that said like, okay, I need to get out, but I need to get out now or else I may never get out?
I don't know if I ever thought that. I just kind of like was getting to a point where I was getting very strong. I'm like in my 20s now. I'm like ready to like just kind of do my own thing. I was becoming more independent, and I had gotten into martial arts, so I was becoming more disciplined with the things that I was doing for myself. And so, I think that I just had a point where I was like, I'm just done, and I just stopped. Like when you're in a relationship like that, the codependency and the back and forth, the breaking up and going back is so prevalent, and it's very common in these type of relationships. But I had finally come to a point where I was like, I was done. I wasn't going to talk to him anymore, and I didn't talk to him for over 30 days. And that was it. That was when I knew I was done, and because I finally got away. Because you're part of like this back and forth. It's like a drug. You're like in this, you love them, you hate them, and you love them, and it's just it's hard to explain. The words are escaping me of what I want to say exactly, but it's a back and forth. It's very codependent. It's very difficult to get out of.
Sure. Yeah, I can imagine, especially if you are very young and have, self-esteem is always a big thing when you're younger and you're not sure about who you are as a person.
Oh yeah, for sure. Well, I'm used to my father called me names. It was like, so I was used to it. Okay, so this is like familiar to me, even though familiar doesn't always mean that it's good, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I had to go through a lot of counseling too. I took myself to counseling. I said I couldn't continue to repeat these patterns in my life. I had to get better. Like I had to make better choices and surround myself with better things, better hobbies, better people. I mean, there was one point like I moved, I changed all my phone numbers and I moved away from everybody.
Mm-hmm. Did you leave the area that you used to live in, or did you go to a completely different city? Or
Yeah, completely different city. Oh yeah, big time. Yeah.
so no chance of them finding you. So what is the process of you mentioned counseling? What else was the process in terms of you rebuilding yourself and kind of establishing yourself as a powerful woman?
Well, I think that we're all still a work in process, so that's never done, right? But back then, it was just, I had gotten really involved in martial arts. I started reading a lot of books around discipline and just self-help on how to build myself up from on the inside. I continue to do counseling and, just really invest in things that were good for me. Health, it was really focused on my health and, taking care of my body and um you know it's just a lot. That stuff is not easy and you can't just do it one and done. You have to do it for a long period of time. So
Hmm.
even when I got married to my late husband, we were doing counseling, and then after he passed, I went back into counseling because I after he passed, I attracted another really bad, like, abusive guy that was kind of very much like that. Like, it was bizarre. Like, I went all this time and then I immediately attracted someone like that. It was pretty crazy.
That's wild because I mean I would, that that would happen, but I assume you figured that out pretty quickly and got out of that relationship pretty quickly.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. That didn't last long. Not at all.
Well, yeah. So what? So you built have a successful career. You're C level executive and have a successful business. How does that make you feel in terms of when you look back at the person you were when you got into this?
Well, I've always had a very strong sense of business. Like, I had my own little business when I was 13. I used to babysit, cut grass. Then I was a personal trainer for a little bit. So I've always been very business oriented. So when I met my late husband, we dated for a little while. And then, he actually, in the crash of 2007, he lost his big main manufacturing company, and we had to restart together. And I remember telling him, like, because we were engaged at the time, I'm like, I'm going to be there when you restart. Fine, I don't have to say anything, but I want to be present because this is my life too. Because he had lost almost $10 million. And so,
Mm.
I went to the first meeting and I sat there quiet, just listened to everything. And, I worked my way up into the company. I earned my title big time, more than anybody probably could even imagine. And I remember at one point, as we started working together, he said he underestimated me. And it was just like, I think that my history and things I've been through, my ability to overcome and see the glass, I guess, half full instead of half empty, allowed me to really be a very good leader. I mean, I'm sure, and also I'm sure being the oldest of five doesn't help either.
Absolutely, absolutely. Did any of your other siblings suffer of similar fate, or did they?
No, not at all. That was part of the, like, my I actually called the police on my father. So when I was 15, I called the police on him, and they came and removed him. And the reason why I did that was because I couldn't see my siblings having had the same fate as myself. And
Mhm.
so, like, I kind of took on, all of that for them in my life, so they didn't have to experience any of it.
No, well, that's nice that you were protecting them. What would you say to someone? What are the signs of someone being in a abusive relationship like that you're talking about? You kind of you meet someone and they're kind of nice, but what what would you say somebody has to be aware of?
I think if someone is real secretive and is scared to open up, I think it's normal for, if you get together with some girlfriends and that they have to leave right away because oh no, like, someone's going to be home, or if they don't want to open up about their life at all, then, or don't ever want to have you over, I think that those are telltale signs that something wrong is happening there, you know. So, I mean,
Mhm.
those are some things I can think of. They're just very secretive, closed off, very timid, maybe scared a little bit, because I mean, anybody who is living in their truth, or in living in a fulfilling, happy life, is going to be, reciprocal when they meet you. They're going to want to talk to you about their life. They're going to want to listen about yours. If they're very, like, quiet about their own life, then there's probably something happening there.
Okay.
Or can't
Yeah.
look you in the eye. That's another thing. If someone can't look you in the eye, I mean, I know that could be a character trait, but if it's a woman is, like, cowering and can't look you in the eye when you're just, like, saying hi to her on the street, you have to wonder what's happening to her at home.
Hmm. Sure, sure, sure. And what would you say to someone that's in a relationship like that? How do they get help? How do they get out?
Again, it's like you could talk to someone until you're blue in the face, and unless they're ready, they're really not going to make the change. I had someone on my show recently, and she was talking about someone that she knew that had oh no, I was a guest on her show, that's right. And one of her mother had been abused terribly as when she was little, and she stayed in that relationship forever, and she never had any girlfriends. And so this lady that I was on her show was telling me that she talked to one of her mother's like neighbors / friends, and she asked the friend or the neighbor, did you ever have an idea of what was going on? And she said yes, because she would never really talk to her about what was going on. And so, here's a woman that sustained abuse for her whole life. And I forgot what this lady said. I think she had asked her mother why she stayed. And she said, because she was just so ashamed that she never left. So I think there's a lot of shame when you don't decide to leave. Then you judge yourself. You put those labels on yourself like you're damaged goods, and you just feel shame that you never stood up for yourself. So therefore, you don't deserve better. You know what I mean? It's kind of a trap that people can put themselves into, and it's very sad because no one deserves to be treated poorly in any situation.
Yeah, no, that's a horrible situation, and the fact that you would think so little of yourself that you would allow someone to do that is actually it's to me. I guess I know it happens. It's just kind of mind-boggling at some point, because but a lot of people just never get out of it. Okay, all right. Well, Deanna, any last words of advice to our listeners?
Well, I'm going to stick true to my brand. I've been through all that stuff. And the reason why I started Label Free was because I carried a lot of those labels. I was telling you that lady was ashamed. And I came to a point after I went through a lot of healing and, kind of dealt with losing my late husband and having to start my life over. And I was like, I'm tired of carrying all these labels. So I like to tell people, just accept yourself for who you are and love every part of yourself, because you are imperfectly perfect and there's no one like yourself. And if I hadn't had all those experiences before, it would never have brought me to where I am today.
Okay, wonderful. And we're going to have all your contact information in the show notes and how to get a hold of you, and also a link to your podcast. And so if anybody wants to follow you, they'll know how to do that. So Deanna, I want to thank you again for coming back on oldguytalkstome.com.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. So this is Orest, the official old guy at oldguytalkstome.com. Remember, it's all about creating a kick-ass life for yourself and those that you love. Be sure to subscribe, rate, share, and review this podcast. And even if you don't like me, just rant on me. I don't care. It'll be fun. It helps the algorithms. So
Thank you for joining Dr. Orest and his incredible guest. Like what you heard and learned? Then be sure to do 3 things. 1, subscribe so you don't miss the next episode. 2, share this with someone who may need to hear it. 3, leave a review and rate this podcast. Opt in at www.thestandard.academy/magazine and get our free digital magazine with savings, articles, and deeper dives into cool controversy. Be the guy who takes action. Without action, you're not going to get the results you want. Thank you again, and make it a great day.